See, bad people don't walk around wearing signs that say, "I'm here to destroy you." They blend in, they charm, they hide behind kindness, behind smiles, behind small talk. But if you know what to look for, if you pay close attention, you'll catch them. Because bad people always reveal themselves through patterns. They can't help it. The signs are subtle, but they are there. And today I'm going to tell you exactly what to look for. The first sign: they twist truth like it's art. They never lie outright. No, that would be too easy to catch. They distort, they stretch, they conveniently leave parts out. You'll hear something from them, and then hear a very different version from someone else. And when you confront them, they'll flip the narrative on you. Suddenly you're the problem, you're overreacting. You misunderstood. And if you're not careful, you'll start questioning yourself, not them. That's exactly how they control you, by dismantling your grip on reality. The second sign: they never apologize sincerely. If they hurt you, they'll say, "I'm sorry you feel that way," not "I'm sorry I did that." They shift blame even while pretending to take responsibility. Their apologies come with conditions, with excuses, with loopholes. It's a performance, not a confession, and if you let it slide, they'll do it again, and again, and again. Third, they gossip like it's a sport. They'll smile to someone's face, then rip them apart the moment they walk away. And here's the rule: if they gossip to you, they gossip about you. Always, no exceptions. They collect secrets and weaknesses like currency, and they'll use them the moment it serves their agenda. If someone brings you tea, just know they're also brewing it about you somewhere else. Fourth, they gaslight like pros. You'll say, "That hurt me." They'll say, "You're too sensitive." You'll say, "That's not what happened." They'll say, "You're imagining things." Over time, you start feeling confused, lost, unstable. You second-guess your own emotions. That's not weakness. That's being psychologically manipulated. They don't want you to see clearly, because the moment you do, you'll walk away. And they can't have that. Fifth, they play victim every time they're held accountable. The moment you draw a boundary, suddenly you're the villain. "After all I've done for you, I guess I just can't do anything right." No. What they can't do is face consequences. And that's not your fault. Their pain is not your prison. Their guilt trips are not your obligation. Don't carry a weight they threw at your feet. Sixth, they thrive in chaos. Drama follows them, not by accident, by design. They stir the pot, pit people against each other, and then pretend they're just watching the fallout. And when you finally get tired of it, they'll say, "Why are you so dramatic?" They love confusion because confusion gives them control. Order terrifies them, so they keep things messy, unstable, uncertain, because if everyone's off balance, they get to feel powerful. Seventh, they keep score. Not in the way healthy people remember acts of kindness, but in a transactional, threatening way. "Remember when I did this for you? You owe me." They do things for leverage, not love. They track favors like debt collectors. It's not generosity, it's currency. And one day they'll try to cash in. Be ready. And the eighth sign, the most dangerous of all, they mirror your values to earn your trust. At first, they'll agree with everything, support everything, admire everything you stand for. But it's not admiration, it's calculation. They're mapping you out, learning your language, becoming who they think you want. And once you let your guard down, once you get attached, that mask drops. And the real person underneath, cold, ruthless, unrecognizable. Bad people don't start out obvious. They lure you in. They build comfort. They test your boundaries piece by piece. And if you don't pay attention, you wake up one day wondering how you ever got so far from who you used to be. But here's the truth: you were never the weak one. You were the targeted one. Because your strength, your empathy, your light, it threatened them. So from now on, trust your gut. Watch for the patterns. And most of all, don't explain away what your instincts already know. Because once you see the signs, the question isn't why are they like this? The question is, why are you still letting them in? They distort the truth. Not in bold, obvious lies, but in calculated, slippery ways that make you question reality. They're not clumsy liars. They're artists of deception. They give you 80% truth and poison it with 20% manipulation, just enough to shift the outcome in their favor. You ask them a direct question, and instead of answering it, they redirect you. They change the context. They give you just enough to keep you guessing, never enough to see clearly. And here's where it gets dangerous. They make you doubt yourself. You think, maybe I misunderstood. You replay conversations in your head, trying to figure out where things twisted. But it's not you. It's them. They're playing a game where words are weapons, and the goal isn't to inform you. It's to control you. They'll leave out key details, use selective honesty, and tell partial truths just to keep you in the dark while convincing you they're being transparent. That's not honesty. That's manipulation dressed in civility. And the longer you're exposed to it, the more your trust in your own judgment begins to erode. You find yourself stuck in a fog, trying to make sense of things that were designed to be confusing. That's how they get power. By making the truth so twisted, you stop trusting your own perception and start relying on theirs. Don't let anyone weaponize truth against you. If someone's version of the story always feels off, it probably is. And if your gut says something's not right, that's not weakness. That's your intelligence sounding the alarm. They avoid genuine accountability like it's poison. When they hurt you, they don't own it, they dance around it. Their apologies come wrapped in ego and wrapped in blame. You'll hear things like, "I'm sorry you feel that way," or "I didn't mean it like that," or worse, "You're too sensitive." That's not an apology. That's deflection dressed as remorse. See, bad people don't want to repair the damage. They want to erase the fact that it ever happened. They want to shift the focus so the spotlight is on your reaction, not their behavior. And if you press the issue, if you calmly say, "This hurt me," they'll spin it so fast you'll wonder if you're the one who should be apologizing. This is strategic. They're not interested in healing. They're interested in escaping consequences. And over time, if you keep allowing those fake apologies, you begin to question whether you even have the right to be hurt. You normalize the disrespect. You start thinking that maybe asking for basic decency is asking for too much. That's what they want. To break down your standards, to rewire your boundaries, so they can continue to be Hadley without ever facing the mirror. But don't confuse silence with peace. And don't confuse fake apologies with growth. Accountability isn't just about saying, "I'm sorry." It's about changing behavior. And if someone keeps doing the same thing after every apology, then the apology was just manipulation. It was never meant to change. They just wanted you to stop calling them out. They gossip with precision, like it's a strategy, not just idle chatter. At first, it might seem harmless. They share stories, little truths, bits of drama that make you feel like you're on the inside. But pay close attention. Because the way they talk about people when they're not around is exactly how they'll talk about you when you're not around. That's not connection. That's manipulation. They use gossip to bond, to create alliances, to position themselves as the all-knowing, well-informed one. And it works for a while. You feel flattered, trusted, even special, until you realize every secret shared was a test, every vulnerable moment someone else's misfortune being used as entertainment. This kind of person collects private information the way others collect currency. And eventually, your name will end up in their mouth too. Maybe it's subtle at first. A comment, a joke, a twist in your story you didn't authorize. But it spreads, because that's what they do. They use gossip to build influence. To break others down behind closed doors so they can shine in the spotlight. And the more you listen to them, the more you absorb their toxicity without even realizing it. You become a spectator in someone else's downfall until you're next. It doesn't matter how close you think you are. Loyalty to a gossip is always temporary. So when someone constantly brings you drama, chaos, and stories that aren't theirs to tell, understand this: it's not about trust. It's about power. And one day, they'll trade your name for attention just like they did with everyone else. They gaslight you so subtly, you don't even realize it's happening until you're standing there, questioning your own memory, your own sanity, your own reality. That's the power of a bad person who's mastered psychological warfare. They'll say something cruel, then deny they ever said it. You'll bring up something that clearly happened, and they'll look you straight in the eyes and say, "That never happened." And the worst part, they'll do it so calmly, so confidently, that you start to believe them over yourself. That's not just lying. That's calculated erasure. It's not about what's true. It's about what they can make you believe is true. And once you start doubting your own voice, they have you. You'll start shrinking in conversations, second-guessing your reactions, over-explaining things that were never your fault. They make you feel like you're the unstable one, the emotional one, the problem. And they're just trying to help. Just being honest. But the truth is, they're slowly dismantling your sense of clarity so they can stay in control. And this isn't always loud or aggressive. It's often quiet, underhanded, disguised as concern. But don't be fooled. Gaslighting is abuse with a smile. It's manipulation wearing the mask of care. And the longer you stay in it, the more disconnected you become from yourself. That's why you must trust your gut when something feels off. You don't need to prove your reality to anyone. You know what you felt. You know what happened. And if someone is constantly making you feel like you have to fight for your truth, they're not confused. They're controlling. They play the victim the moment you hold them accountable. You set a boundary. They act betrayed. You point out something hurtful, they collapse into self-pity. It's not accountability they're afraid of. It's losing control. So what do? They flip the script. Suddenly, it's, after all I've done for you. Or, I guess I just can't do anything right. Now you're no longer talking about their behavior. You're comforting them. You went in seeking clarity, and you walked out apologizing. That's not a misunderstanding. That's emotional manipulation. Bad people are masters at turning accountability into an attack. They don't reflect on their actions, they reframe them as suffering. And if you're not solid in your own awareness, you'll fall into their trap, feeling guilty for expecting basic respect, questioning whether you were too harsh, too demanding, too unforgiving. But here's the truth, standing up for yourself doesn't make you the villain. Drawing a line doesn't make you cruel. People who truly care about you want to know when they've hurt you. They don't melt into self-pity to avoid the mirror. When someone constantly makes your pain about their discomfort, they're not being vulnerable. They're weaponizing it. And if every difficult conversation turns into a scene where you're comforting the person who hurt you, you're not in a relationship. You're in a cycle where your emotional labor becomes their safety net, while your boundaries get stripped away piece by piece. That's not love. That's control. They thrive in chaos, not by accident, not because life keeps throwing them curveballs, but because they manufacture it. They need disorder. They need confusion. Chaos is where they shine, where they gain power. And if you watch closely, it's not just that drama follows them. It's that they create it. Quietly, strategically. They stir the pot behind the scenes and then sit back like they're the innocent bystander. They plant little seeds of doubt, pit people against each other, leak just enough information to get things going, and then they watch the explosion like it has nothing to do with them. That's not impulsive behavior. That's calculated control. See, when everything is peaceful, when boundaries are clear and communication is honest, they lose their grip. They can't manipulate people who are grounded. They can't play mind games when things are calm. So what do? They destabilize everything. They create emotional whiplash. Hot one moment, cold the next. One day they're praising you, the next they're criticizing you with a smile. You're never quite sure where you stand with them, and that's by design. Because uncertainty makes you easier to control. If you're always trying to figure out what mood they're in, or what you did wrong, or why things suddenly shifted, you stop asking the real questions. You get so caught up in managing their costs that you lose track of your own values, your own peace, your own voice. They are experts at shifting focus. If you're upset about something, they'll bring up a bigger crisis, real or fabricated. Suddenly, your needs are irrelevant. Suddenly, they're dealing with something more serious, something urgent. And you're left wondering if your concerns even matter. That's the game. To keep you emotionally off balance so you're always reacting, never leading. So you're always adjusting, accommodating, shrinking. And here's where it gets even more twisted. They'll create the mess and then position themselves as the hero. They'll act like they're fixing the very situations they've orchestrated. Look at all I do for everyone. Why does everything fall on me? But the truth is, they want it to fall on them. because being the center of the storm keeps the attention and the control on their terms, and the more tangled things are, the easier it is to rewrite the story, to manipulate the facts, to twist the narrative in a way that makes them the victim or the savior, but never the villain. They use chaos as camouflage. As long as everyone is running around trying to put out fires, no one's stopping to ask who started them. That's why when you start to pull away from a chaotic person, they don't just let you go quietly. They'll stir things up to pull you back in. Maybe they'll create a crisis that only you can fix. Maybe they'll start rumors. Maybe they'll suddenly be in deep distress and need your support. It's not love. It's a lure. It's bait to get you back into the fog where they can control the light. And they're not always loud or obvious. Sometimes chaos comes in the form of emotional inconsistency, saying one thing and doing another, promising the world and delivering excuses. One day they're completely invested, and the next they disappear. You start wondering if you did something wrong. You start chasing the highs. That's emotional manipulation through instability. They know that unpredictability is addictive. You start craving those good moments so much that you tolerate the bad ones. You convince yourself that if you just stay a little longer, do a little more, be a little better, the peace will return. But it never really does. Not with them. Because the chaos isn't accidental. It is the relationship. And here's the dangerous part. When you're around chaos long enough, it starts to feel normal. Your nervous system adapts to the dysfunction. Silence feels uncomfortable. Peace feels unfamiliar. You start confusing intensity with intimacy. You start thinking love is supposed to be painful, uncertain, dramatic. That's not love. That's trauma bonding. And it's exactly what they want. But let me tell you this, you weren't put on this earth to live in someone else's emotional hurricane. You weren't built to be someone's anchor while they refuse to stop sinking the ship. Your peace is not negotiable. Your sanity is not optional. The moment you start noticing the pattern, the emotional volatility, the constant confusion, the unspoken pressure to manage their feelings while ignoring your own, you need to ask yourself, who am I becoming in this environment? Because bad people will always push boundaries to see what they can get away with. They will keep testing, keep escalating, keep manipulating, until you no longer recognize yourself. That's the cost of staying too long in someone else's storm. You lose your direction. You lose your voice. And sometimes, you lose years of your life thinking you're helping someone, when in reality, you're just surviving them. You want to spot someone who thrives in chaos. Watch how they react to calm. Watch how they respond when you don't take the bait. When you stay neutral, when you walk away from drama instead of feeding it, that's when they start panicking. Because peace is where you find your power. And that terrifies them. They'll tell you, you've changed. They'll say you're being cold, distant, difficult. Let them talk. That's what people do when they lose access to the version of you they could control. And if maintaining your peace offends someone who lives for chaos, good. Let it offend them, because your job isn't to carry their emotional baggage or solve their self-inflicted mess. Your job is to protect your peace like it's your most valuable asset. Because it is. And once you recognize chaos for what it really is, a tool of manipulation, a distraction from truth, a mask for control, you'll stop trying to fix it. You'll stop running into fires you didn't start. And you'll start choosing silence over shouting, clarity over confusion, and calm over chaos every single time. You don't need to explain your peace. You just need to enforce it. Because the moment you do, the entire game falls apart. And that's exactly how you win. They keep score. Not out of gratitude, but as leverage. Every kind gesture, every favor, every so-called sacrifice isn't done from the heart. It's a transaction, a future debt. And one day, when it suits them, they will come to collect. They'll remind you of what they did for you. Remember when I helped you that time. After all I've done for you, this is how you treat me. And it won't matter if their help came with strings, or if you never asked for it in the first place. To them, everything is a deal. Nothing is ever free. This kind of person doesn't give to give. They give to own. And when the day comes that you say no, when you set a boundary, when you push back, when you finally speak your truth, they pull out the ledger. Suddenly you're ungrateful. Suddenly you're selfish. They weaponize every act of kindness, to guilt you into silence, to force you into submission, because in their world, your autonomy is a betrayal. And they don't just keep score in big moments. They remember the tiniest details, and they will twist them into evidence. They catalog your reactions, your tone, what you said 3 months ago, and when the pressure rises, they'll bring it all back, not to resolve it, but to control the moment, to gain the upper hand, to make sure you feel too guilty, too indebted, too worn down to stand up for yourself. Healthy people give because they care. They help without conditions. They don't expect repayment. They expect mutual respect. But with toxic people, everything is conditional. There is no generosity, only strategy. And if you're not careful, you'll find yourself making decisions not from freedom, but from fear. You'll start saying yes out of guilt. You'll start overextending yourself just to keep the peace. That's not peace. That's emotional blackmail. And here's the twist. They want you to believe you owe them, that you're somehow in debt to them, even after they've drained your time, your energy, your emotional capacity. They spin it so well, you start apologizing for having needs, for asking for fairness, for wanting space. And that's exactly how they like it. As long as you feel indebted, they hold the power. But you don't owe anyone your silence. You don't owe anyone access to your life because they once showed up with a favor. Your worth is not measured by what you've been given. It's measured by what you tolerate. And if someone keeps throwing their past efforts in your face every time you assert yourself, they're not trying to build with you. They're trying to control you. So when someone keeps score, pay attention. That's not a partnership. That's a power play. And the only way to win that game is to stop playing it entirely, because love doesn't come with receipts, and respect doesn't require debt. They mirror your values to earn your trust, but don't mistake that for compatibility. It's manipulation. At first, they seem perfect. They like what you like, support what you believe in, and reflect everything back to you like a flawless version of yourself. It feels amazing. It feels safe. It feels like finally, someone gets you. But what's really happening is calculated mimicry. They're studying you, listening closely, figuring out what moves you, what you care about, what earns your respect. And then they replicate it, not of authenticity, but out of strategy. They're not connecting with you, they're profiling you. And it works. You drop your guard. You open up. You trust faster than usual because you believe you've found someone who aligns with your core. But over time, the cracks start to show. They slip. They contradict themselves. You notice they don't live the values they once praised. You start seeing that their words don't match their actions. That thing they said they believed in, they mock it behind closed doors. That empathy they showed in the beginning, it disappears when you're the one in need, because it was never real, it was bait. They tailor their personality to reflect what you admire, so they can get close enough to influence you, to use your trust as a weapon. And once they feel like they have you, once you're emotionally invested, they drop the act, the agreement you thought existed between you. It vanishes. The person you fell for. A mask. And when you try to point it out, they'll say you've changed. They'll tell you're being paranoid, overanalyzing, dramatic. But no, you're just finally seeing the truth. People like this rely on your desire for connection. They know you lead with your heart. They know you value depth, loyalty, alignment, and they exploit it. They weaponize your integrity against you. Because when someone pretends to believe in the same things you do, you lower your defenses. You don't expect betrayal to come dressed as belonging. So how do you protect yourself? By watching for consistency. Anyone can mirror your values in conversation, but not everyone lives them in behavior. Do they show up the same way when it's inconvenient? Do they still hold those values when no one's watching? When you say no, when you disappoint them, do they treat you with respect, or does the mask slip? Real character doesn't need to perform. It's steady, grounded, predictable in the best way. But manipulation wears the costume of alignment until it's no longer necessary. And if you're not vigilant, you'll confuse imitation for intimacy. Trust isn't built through shared opinions. It's built through time, through patterns, through watching someone's choices when nothing is at stake. So if someone feels too perfect, too fast, don't ignore that signal. Sometimes the biggest threat isn't the person who opposes you. It's the one who pretends to be just like you. They exploit empathy like it's a weakness, like it's something to be used against you instead of honored within you. And if you're someone who leads with compassion, someone who wants to see the good in people, who gives second chances and believes in growth, they will target you, because they know your heart will make excuses for what your eyes can already see. They know you'll rationalize the red flags. You'll say, they didn't mean it. Or, they're just going through something. Or everyone has flaws. And while all of that might be true, it becomes dangerous when it blinds you from the true thing. This person is using your goodness to continue getting away with bad behavior. See, empathy is a strength, but when given to the wrong person, it becomes a trap. They'll lean into it. They'll play up their past trauma. They'll tell you just enough sad stories to make you feel responsible for their healing. Now you're not just their friend or partner. You're their therapist, their savior, their emotional dumping ground, and slowly, without even noticing it, you stop expressing your needs because their pain always seems bigger. You stop confronting their behavior because you're worried it might trigger something. You let them cross lines because you feel sorry for what they've been through. But while you're carrying the weight of their wounds, they're stacking more on your shoulders. They don't want healing. They want permission to keep breaking things, including you. And the moment you try to step back, the guilt begins. After everything I've shared with you, you're just like everyone else who gave up on me. They turn your empathy into shame. They make you feel like pulling away is betrayal, like protecting yourself is cruelty. That's how you know they never valued your heart. They only valued what your heart could do for them. Because real connection doesn't require you to lose yourself. Real healing doesn't demand that you bleed so someone else can breathe. And this is where it gets even more manipulative. They'll tell you how good you are, how kind, how different from everyone else. Not because they appreciate you, but because they're reinforcing the idea that you have to stay, that you owe it to them. They want you to be the good one, so badly, because they know good people stay too long. Good people justify mistreatment. Good people give warning after warning and chance after chance. And the longer you stay, the more you lose touch with the line between love and self-sacrifice. But there is a difference between helping someone and rescuing someone who doesn't want to change. And the more you overextend for people who only take, the more you drain yourself for someone who wouldn't do the same for you. You start walking on eggshells. You start shrinking your needs. And somewhere along the way, you stop asking, is this good for me? And only ask, how can I help them? That's how bad people keep good people stuck. They twist your greatest strength into your greatest liability. But empathy isn't about abandoning yourself. It's not about becoming a martyr in someone else's chaos. It's not about fixing someone who refuses to be accountable. Your heart is not a free pass for someone to keep hurting you. And protecting your energy does not make you cruel. It makes you conscious. You can care about someone and still walk away. You can want the best for them and still decide that you are not their rehabilitation center. Because if someone continues to exploit your kindness, your compassion, your grace, they were never interested in love. They were interested in power. And when empathy becomes a tool they use to keep you silent, compliant, and drained, it's no longer about them. It's about reclaiming your voice, your worth, and your ability to say enough. They reveal themselves through patterns, not isolated moments. And this is the part most people miss. Because bad people know how to perform when it counts. They can be charming at dinner, polite to your family, generous when eyes are on them. They can say the right things, do the right things, show up at just the right time. But that's not who they are. That's who they want you to think they are. The truth isn't found in the moments they control. The truth is in the pattern they hope you overlook. One harsh comment. It can happen. One bad day. We all have them. But when someone consistently dismisses your boundaries, regularly twists your words, repeatedly makes you feel guilty for protecting yourself, that's not a one-time slip. That's a pattern. And patterns don't lie. They are the blueprint of someone's character. The way they treat you when they're tired, annoyed, disappointed. That's real. That's who you're in a relationship with, not the highlight reel they show to the world. And this is why it's so dangerous to get caught up in justifying or isolating behaviors. You think, but last week they were so kind. Or, they apologized, and we had a great day after that. But patterns aren't broken by one good day. Patterns are only broken by sustained, intentional change. And most bad people aren't interested in that. They're interested in manipulating your focus. They want you to zoom in on the one moment they were sweet, instead of stepping back to see the full picture of how they've treated you over time. When you keep giving someone the benefit of the doubt, even as their actions stack up against them, you start to betray your own judgment. You make excuses. You second-guess yourself. You erase your own reality in favor of who they could be. And that's the trap, because they know as long as you stay focused on potential, you won't hold them accountable for the pattern. And this is where you have to be brutal with truth, not emotional, not hopeful. Brutal. What do their actions tell you? Not their promises, not their apologies, not the moments when everything felt perfect. When you lay it all out, are you respected? Are you seen? Are you emotionally safe? Or are you just surviving cycles of harm that always circle back to another "I didn't mean it," followed by another repeat offense? Because people don't accidentally create patterns. They create them through repetition, through choices, through how they show up when there's nothing to gain. And if someone's pattern is hurt, apologize, repeat. Believe that. That's not a glitch in their system. That is their system. And the longer you ignore it, the more you teach them that they never have to change. That as long as they perform just enough good moments, they can get away with all the bad ones. So don't be fooled by the flash. Don't lose yourself in the peaks when the valleys keep breaking you. When someone shows you a pattern of who they are, stop trying to explain it. Start making decisions around it, because real power doesn't come from confrontation. It comes from clarity. And once you see the pattern, the question is no longer why do they keep doing this. The question is why are you still letting them? So now you know. Bad people don't announce themselves. They don't show up wearing red flags. They show up wearing charm, empathy, promises, even love. But it's all a setup. Their power isn't in how loud they are. It's in how subtle they move. They twist truth. They dodge accountability. They gossip, gaslight, play the victim, create chaos, keep score, mirror your values, and exploit your empathy. But the most dangerous part, they hide it all in patterns that feel normal over time. That's how they keep you trapped. By making dysfunction feel familiar. But here's the true thing: the second you see the pattern, the power begins to shift. Because once you recognize the signs, once you stop explaining away the damage, once you stop letting your kindness be used as a weapon against you, that's when the spell breaks. That's when your boundaries become stronger than their manipulation. That's when you stop playing defense and start protecting your peace like your life depends on it. Because it does. You don't owe anyone access to your mind, your heart, or your energy just because they want it. Your empathy isn't a weakness. Your strength isn't up for negotiation. You are not here to fix broken people who refuse to be whole. You are here to become so grounded, so aware, so untouchable in your truth that nothing false can survive around you. So pay attention, trust what you see, and when someone shows you who they really are, not in words but in patterns, believe it the first time. That's how you stop them. That's how you protect yourself. That's how you take your power back.